January 25th and 26th, coming up this month, and we do it in the Clearwater Fire Training Center. How many in this room, by a show of hands, please, have been to the Clearwater Fire Training Center? A pretty good number of people. So that center, basically we have I don't want to say we have the run of the place everywhere but the firehouse, obviously. They don't let us in there. They have classrooms. They actually have an EOC there now, which they're going to open up on Saturday for a tour. But they have classrooms, and they have an area outside, which is sort of a picnic area, pavilion that they have some tables at, and it's covered. So that qualifies as outdoor, and I'll tell you why that's important in a second. So we set up temporary antennas and radios outside, very similar to what we used to do in field day. In field day, we used to do everything outside. We used to do everything with, we still use the outside antennas and outside separate radios, but it's basically equipment that has not been set up previously or is not permanently set up for that function. So we bring radios in, and we bring antennas in and set those up and run the coax and do all things like that. And we do this outside, and because this is winter field day, so there's actually 3 different classes, which I'll talk about. One of them is outside, and there are people who do outside from Minnesota, so it's very important when you're on the air, don't talk about the weather, because that's just cruel and unusual. Our goal is to make as many contacts as possible on many band modes as possible, so we'll try to make 80 meters, sideband, CW, and digital, and that's either going to be RTTY or PSK31. There's no way to send the exchange for this contest for this emergency preparedness exercise in FT8. So where summer field day does have the mechanism for FT8, this contest does not. Forgive me if I say contest, I really don't mean that. So our goal is to make as many contacts as with other field days, introduce people and who may not have operated. Whether you have no clue what amateur radio is and somebody's stumbling off the street, that doesn't happen very often. But more importantly, we have 3 clubs, and we may have people who've never sat down and operated an HF radio before. So we want to make sure we give them the chance to do that. And so, as I said in the end there, it's like ARL field day without the heat and without the bugs. And sometimes it's actually a little challenging. Last year was, for us anyway, a little challenging. It was cold and rainy, and it was, it must have been 50 degrees or 45, I think it was like 45 degrees at night. So it was a real burden, but again, don't share that story. So it's a joint exercise between the Clearwater Amateur Radio Society, St. Pete Amateur Radio Club, and Upper Pinellas Amateur Radio Club. And important, Winter Field Day is sponsored by the Winter Field Day Association. It's not an ARL event. And I say that, just don't go on the ARL website looking for information on it. You will not find it there. Winter Field Day Association, they set up the rules. And again, it closely models field day. There are some exceptions, like we don't have a free VHF station. But we still make the satellite contact, and only here, rather than 100 points, is worth 1,500 points to make one satellite contact. So we try to make sure we do that. And we will be operating, again, HF 80 through as low bands as we can go, or as high bands as we can go. Start at 80 through 15, and do some 2 meters and 6 meters if anybody's around or whatnot. Setup begins at 8 a.m. This is on the Saturday 25th. The operating period is 1 p.m. That's important. It's still 1800 Zulu, but they kept that consistent with field day. But because we're in standard time, it's 1 p.m., not 2 p.m. All right, so that's one thing that always catches me. At least once a year, I always forget that. No, it's 1 o'clock, not 2 o'clock. I'm so used to 1800. And that we go all the way straight through Sunday at 1, and we'll take everything down and do it again in June. And the location, again, Clearwater Fire Training Center, and I know we're in St. Pete, and I know anything, Alberton Road is hard to pass, but I encourage you, if you haven't been North County in a while, or even Mid-County, go up there and see how it's changed, and stop by the Clearwater Fire Training Center and operate a little while, or at least come by and say hello. It's south of Sunset Point Road. If you don't know where it is, it's on Belcher between Northeast Coachman and Sunset Point Road in Clearwater, of course.
Big red trucks in the garage.
What was that?
Got some big red trucks in the garage.
Yeah, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So the equipment-wise, we have 3 stations, and basically we have 2 sideband stations. The third one could do it as well, but generally we run 2 sideband stations, 1 CW station, which we will keep as active as we can on CW, and we also have the ability on the CW station and one of the sideband stations to run digital mode, so that'll again either be RTPY or PSK. Honestly, I suspect it'll be a lot more PSK 31 than anything, because we can send the exchange. And our operating class will be 3, so we'll have 3 transmitters, and it's 100 watts, 3 transmitters, and O for outdoor. The 3 modes or operating classes are I for inside and H for home. So if we were operating like we did it a couple years ago at DMI for field day, we operated from inside but used all temporary stuff, that would be I, because we're inside. It's not a permanent station. If you're at home operating, you hear somebody on the air and you're just knocking around or whatever, and don't work us, but if you've been out to our site, but if you're working somebody else, you would be H, so you'd be 1H at home. All right. And the exchange is the class and the section. So we're WCF or SFL or NFL for North Florida, and then you get into the California, the 9 or so in California and whatnot. Meals, Saturday, we have lunch. That lunch is typically barbecue and a grill. We have dinner, which people bring, I think typically we end up doing a pulled pork or something, or chicken. We have asked people to bring stuff to share, bring a dish, desserts, other side dishes. We do breakfast, and then lunch on Sunday as well. And then we also, so again, please do sign up, and if you have not yet, right now I think there's 24 people signed up. If you have not yet, if you go to spark-club.org, our website, right in the top, the featured article, you'll see a link to it. You can go sign up. And it's an easy thing. You don't need a Google, it is a Google form, but you don't need a Google account. Just put your name and call and how many people are going to show up and when you're going to be there, and we'll know what meals you're going to be there for. And then we'll get the count, because about the Wednesday before is when we get the final count for the number of people. So that's the highlights and the overview. Anybody have any questions about Winter Field Day, where it's going to be, or when, or why you would want to come up there? Or I will say one more thing about that, but anybody? Questions? Say them loud, I can't hear a thing. Okay. So one other thing is, the why, which I left out of here. And the why, if you haven't been to a field day type event before, one of the things you learn, especially if you're looking to set up your own HF station, you learn how to figure things out that related to this stuff and radios and antennas and, hey, how do I run my antennas, because we're running wire antennas and slopers and a beam, hopefully, and you get you'll operate a couple of K3s and a Kenwood 590, a couple of the Elecraft K3s. So it's maybe equipment you haven't operated before, and plus you got a whole bunch of people, we can only operate 3 at a time. There's only 3 people operating, and about 3 plus a couple for logging. The rest, people are just around, hanging around and having fun. And if you have questions about stuff, certainly that's a good place to come and ask things. Yes, sir?
Bring your own headphones?
Can't hear you.
Bring your own headphones.
Oh yeah, thank you very much. Yeah, I'm sort of in introduction mode, not operational mode yet, so thank you. Yeah, if you, one of the things we encourage people to do is bring your own headphones. We don't share headsets. If you have a Heil mic or a Heil headset or a Radio Sport headset, bring that along for a microphone. Otherwise, you'll use the one of the desk mics. If you, that's right, man. I need to remember to add the one desk mic. And then as far as your headphones, we will make sure we have splitters so people can hear. And if we have a whole bunch of people around who haven't heard before, somebody will just say, hey, pull your headphones out and just listen with one ear. That way the people behind you can hear it too. We can split it and split it and split it, put speakers in there too. So we've done that before. Just depends how many people are standing behind you and want to listen. So that's one point is we sort of balance we like having fun, we like making contacts, but if somebody comes along and says, hey, I'd like to sit down and operate, they're gonna go ahead and, we're gonna get them in the schedule to operate. It doesn't matter if they've never operated before. They're gonna sit with somebody in log to get going, and then they'll take the microphone and start operating themselves. Our goal is to get people operating just like we do with the SPARC contest station. We do pretty well, but our main focus is getting new people to operate. That's what we want to do. So maybe you're just VHF, maybe that's the limit of your amateur radio experience, and that's great, but hey, there's a lot of other stuff out there, and everybody has mic fright, so everybody in this room had it at one point. So don't worry about that, and we'll get you over that, and everybody will get over it, and just keep operating, and then we'll turn you loose, and you'll go ahead, Bob.
I just want to point out, it doesn't matter what class license you have either.
Yeah, everybody, we have enough extras floating around that everybody can operate in the entire amateur radio, U.S. amateur radio band. And the better we do, the more we just sit there and call CQ, and then other times we'll what's called search and pounce. And again, if you're interested in satellite work, we keep looking to see the first satellite contact we can make. And that's always fun to try to chase that. We'll do that with a couple of beams on most of the time it's operated by hand, where somebody just turns the beam. We don't really need to get, it's pretty easy to make the contacts nowadays with some of the satellites, what's called a linear satellite, which is not the FM repeaters in the sky, but the sideband or CW. So we usually, but it's a matter of hitting it right. And, the 9700 made it a little easier last year, so we'll use that again. Let's see, anybody have any other questions before we get into N1MM and the logging software? All right, give me just a moment. So, I work with a group of about 3 other people, but certainly anybody's welcome to. It's completely open source. I work on a group with developers that write a program called TR4W. And a few years ago, I added features specific to Winter Field Day and TR4W to make it so people wouldn't really make a lot of mistakes. And that worked really well. I think that worked just fine. But there was sort of some discussions about, hey, if we had a problem, then nobody would know how to use it except me. And I wasn't there. And that's a fair argument. So more people use N1MM, which is sort of it's easily 3 to 1, 4 to 1 number of people use N1MM versus other things, like TR4W or N3FJP or other programs. So a lot of people, certainly a lot of people in the club, our club, have experience with N1MM. This N1MM is a piece of contesting software. If you have HRD or DX Keeper or AC Log or something like that, that's a logging program for your general purpose logging. This is a contest logger. 2 completely different things. And I say that because inevitably I see questions on the support groups about, hey, how do I set my contacts to Logbook of the World from this? The answer really should be you don't, but unfortunately they answer those questions. This is a different, its purpose is not general purpose logging, its purpose is contesting. And it's geared, everything about this program is geared towards contest operation. And it supports digital modes, it supports CW and sideband, of course. And when I say support sideband, for example, it's even to the level that you can record your voice on WAV files, and when you type a call sign in, it will say the call in your, alpha 1 alpha in your voice that are WAV files. I mean, you can get pretty sophisticated with it. You don't have to get that sophisticated, which is, again, most of these programs you can try it out as much or as little as you like, just to accomplish the task. So if you're interested in doing this yourself and using N1MM, just do a Google search on N1MM. We'll find the first site. You'll find their website. It's November 1 Mike, and you can download the program. And of course, this program is completely free. There's no charge at all for it. The support. There's no add-on modules, or there's no, hey, I want to do a new contest, so I got to pay a new license. None of that nonsense. It's a free program, all right? And it's well supported. They do feature releases about every 2 weeks. A new contest or a bug fix or something like that. It's a big program, so there's a lot of little contests and things like that. So what I wanted to show was just a few things about it. If you haven't seen N1MM before, and when you go through it, I'm just going to do a new, here we have field day. I'm just for the sake of argument here, because it'll help us with a couple things, I'm just going to use field day as an example. And I'm going to tell it, okay. And now I have a new log. And I don't have a radio attached to it. I didn't bring a radio, but when we have a radio attached to it, whatever frequency is on the radio, the computer will know about. So we don't really need to worry about when I change bands or whatnot. It'll follow you. Although you won't change bands without talking to somebody. That's a cardinal rule of operating a field day. You have to get permission to change bands and change antennas and whatnot. But as an example, so if I work W1AW, oh sorry, I got the wrong mode here. So now forgive me for this demonstration. I didn't set up the winter field day part, so I'm going to imagine it's warmer outside. So this one I'm just going to do it like we will do in 6 months at field day. That's the default contest I haven't set up right now. So I know I'm confusing people with the 1A, but in the field day it's different classes, not the I, O, and H. It's A through F, so just use your imagination there. And they're in Connecticut, so I'm going to enter CT. And now I'm going to hit enter, and notice this is the log window, and I logged W1AW and 1A Connecticut, and I logged them on 14.344. That's just probably the last frequency the computer had when the radio was attached. And so we're on sideband. So that's in the log. And I'm going to go try to work W1AW again. And now the program comes up and says, hey, you've already worked them. It's a dupe. Great, don't argue with the guy, just work them again. Just log them again. If it really comes down to it, and I say that because inevitably you'll be operating, you'll find people who will say, you'll say, hey, we worked you already, and you say, no, you didn't. And, yeah, we did. It's like, just log the contact and move on. You don't get penalized for working a dupe. And you already wasted more time than it took in that discussion, so just work the station. So in, let's see, W7FP, 3A, and we'll do Utah. So I just worked so again, that is really, I mean, there are lots of windows in this program. There's windows to be on what are called DX clusters, and there's a band map window which will show where you're calling CQQ and other stations, and there's your score and lots of things. But when it really comes down to it, all I really care about, I really need, I have to have, we try to keep this simple, is a log window, a place to log the things that are being sent to me, and the log. That's really all I need. So there's lots of other windows, but one thing I wanted to show you just in doing it. So let's go ahead and change bands. Let's change to 40 meters. So I just clicked on the 40 right here. Somebody could also press 40 on the radio. Again, with permission, with coordination, we switched it over to 40. The reason I'm doing this is I'm going to work W1AW again, because that's allowed. I can work the same station on a different band. All right, so watch what happens when I enter W1AW. It remembers what I worked before. I worked 1A Connecticut, it remembers what happened before. So your job, and this is very, very important, your job if that happens, or I should say when that happens, is check that, make sure it's right. Because if you have somebody earlier made a mistake, then, and it's wrong, correct it, and it's not a bad thing to jot down a note or tell somebody, hey, you know, I just worked W1AW and it said 2A and it was really, or it popped up with 1A, but they said they were 2A. So let somebody know. So that's one, always with automation, you sort of need to check the automation and make sure how it works. But the nice thing about that is, by the way, is that doesn't necessarily have to have been worked on this computer. Remember, there's two other computers on the network because we have 3 radios. So if the third station worked W1AW yesterday, and now you're in the CW station, or the other way around, work W1AW, that's going to pop up there again. So it's not just this computer, because all the logs are shared among all 3 computers for redundancy as well. So if we lost one computer, we have the log in 2 other places, 3 other places actually. So there's some redundancy built in. But don't be surprised, don't say, hey, no, we never worked W1AW. Well, the CW station could have worked them. Or a RIDI station could have worked them. Because the RIDI modes are integrated into, and PSK is integrated into this as well. All right? Let's see, I do want to show, I don't have internet access here. I was going to show you their website, but I don't have internet, so we're not bringing up the phone hotspot. Let's see. A couple of things on N1MM. If you use, now I will say this, there are, for example, this weekend, there is a RIDI Roundup, which is an ARL contest, and we use N1MM at the SPARC station for contesting, and we'll use that for RIDI, and we'll also use that for FT8, because FT8 is allowed in Roundup. And we actually tie this program's tied to the WSJTX program. So they add a lot of things to it, and add a lot of integrations to talk to different things, and there's a rotor interface and all kinds of stuff that pops up. But again, we don't need the rotor interface for field day, so I don't bring that up. It's just, field day, we keep it simple. One other thing I should say, and that is, oh, I know, let's do it this way. So here, we're working NY4I. I'm going to put in 3, this is for field days, so I'm going to put in 3M, which is not valid. Not valid for either one. There is no M class. And I'm going to say WCF. Actually, I'm going to say West Florida. WFL. Is West Florida a valid section? No. It's WCF, NFL, or North Florida, or SFL for South Florida. So I'm going to go ahead and try to log that. It's going to, at the bottom of the screen, you see it's telling me I have an error. It's saying missing invalid class. So if it tells you you have an error, your objective is to go look and see, hey, what did I do here? And inevitably you either have the class wrong, or maybe you're missing a number, or you have the section wrong. And one of the things you do have, one of the windows that is helpful to see, is we do keep this window up. Sorry, oops. Somewhere. And I'm going to move this up here, so just for the sake of argument here. Oh, let's go down there. Let's move this up here. So you guys can see it. This is a list of the sections. You see under next to Utah on 20 meters, we work W7SP in Utah, so that's filled in. So these are all the sections by call area. So you got a list right on the screen. And we also put that list on the wall above the station, but you can see, sort of keep track right on the program if you have the real estate. When you get into using a monitor this big, because this is one of the computers we use, you become very careful with what you put on the screen because it's somewhat limited. At home, when you have bigger 2 or 3 monitors, you can put a lot of stuff on there, unless you're an expert like Bob is on running this with 1 monitor. And that little sliver right there is that log window, so I can bring that up. He knows exactly where to click. But anyway, so I'll know, hey, WFL is not valid. I'll say, hey, he's a 4. Oh yeah, that was probably WCF, and I'll go ahead and fix that to WCF. And I'll try to hit enter, and it's going to tell me, you have an invalid class. So I have 2 errors here. That M is a problem as well. So again, that error is a bit verbose for my taste, but it is what it is. Yeah, he logged them anyway, so that's that's not the greatest thing, but it's not quite as tailored to saying, hey, it has to be this, or this. Unfortunately, it does not do that. It doesn't do that in Winterfield Day either. But you'll get used to the idea. But if it pops up and says something's wrong, hey, if you have a question, you don't know how to fix it, by all means, ask somebody. We have people around. Again, we have enough people who know how to use the program and will know what's wrong. Don't just guess, ask somebody, because if you guess wrong, when they run the scoring, that contact's not going to count anyway. So if I submitted that 3M, that's going to get discounted, and we'll lose another point for missing that, or for having that messed up. So accuracy is more important than speed in this case. For type of operating. Any questions? What I've gone into so far?
So if someone makes a mistake, can you go back and edit it?
Yeah, you can. I'm up here in the log, and I just double click right in the spot, and I basically can say 3A, and I can fix it. Yeah, that's a good question, thank you. Yeah, so you can't, but as I say, if you don't know how to fix it, ask somebody, hey, I made a mistake, I accidentally logged this, come over and fix it, or write a note and say, hey, at 1:35, I had this mistake in the log. I need somebody to fix it, and we'll fix it, we'll take care of that. All right? And that's fine, but yeah, just tell somebody, don't just do it invisibly. And so what they send you is important, like what Rich was doing before. Those were a lot of DX calls. You're not going to get as many of those, but what they send you counts, and it really is important that you write those down properly or type those in properly. And that's why on the sideband stations, especially if you're new, we make sure we have a logger with you and you're both listening. And it's fine, you can listen to people yell at each other because they both have headphones on and say, hey, who was this? Yes, sir. Technically you can, yeah, you can pass, but we don't typically do that. It's just the level of the sophistication of operators they're not used to doing that. It's not a multi in that sense that you typically do. The question was about passing operators. There's this idea that, hey, we need to work W1AW on 80 meters, and I know the 80 meter station is on, so I'm gonna basically click on it and say, hey, can you go to 3850, our station is over there. That doesn't happen as much in field day and winter field day. But other contests, that happens. It's good to hear, because if you're operating somewhere, and just for fun in a contest, somebody may say, hey, if you have 80 meters, go to 3850 and work our station here. Well, that's how he knows that. He knows where his other station is, where his 80 meter station is. So that's what's happening. It's called passing a multiplier.
Can I show the network? Can you show you don't have a network?
Well, I don't have the one computer, so I really can't, yeah.
Because that information is in the network, the frequency of the other stations.
Right, yeah, I'm saying it's there, I just would not even, we don't even do that at the station. We don't really, we don't do that. We don't pass multipliers really. We sort of pass them manually. Not a bad thing to practice, but winter field day and field day isn't the way to introduce people to that. As half the features in this program are not the place to do that. Because I wouldn't do SO2R with new people at field day or a single operator, 2 radios. That would get a little trying. It requires practice. Our goal here is to get people to not intimidate them even more from making that contact, which that certainly would. Any other questions? Yeah, go ahead, Ron.
You want to show them how to log on?
Yeah, thank you.
That's going to be important.
So you see up here where I have W4TSP? He's the current operator right now. Well, one of the things we like to do is, if you type in OPON for op on, and I notice I just typed that in the log in the call sign box. It's the entry window, that's what it's called. I typed op on, it pops up and says, hey, what's your call sign? So I'll put in NY4I. And then it switches. You notice it switched windows. We make sure it doesn't do that at field day and other contests. We make sure the layouts are all standard unless everyone's agreed to it. Because it brought up some different windows, so each operator can have their own set of windows. That gets really confusing because if it's a new operator, they stay and then it gets a little confusing. But yeah, so the idea is to op on. The reason we check that is really the only thing we use that for is if you've ever seen one of our, as long as the contest sponsor follows this, if you've ever seen one of our certificates, which I forgot one tonight, by the way, if you've ever seen one of the certificates that Bob or Dave will show and will put up on the website, that hey, this is the certificate we got from somebody, there's always, they list the call signs. That order, I take the order of contacts by number of contacts, and that's how I submit the log. So when we get a certificate, your name shows up, typically shows up in log order. Again, not every sponsor does that. Sometimes they just alphabetize them. But the ones that do it, they'll be, and it's just a little competition we do amongst ourselves on how many contacts we made. We also, if you've seen it before, we have we've done an inside where we did a display, a pie chart on at field day. And I've done that on the website as well. And I do have an internet connection there, so I'll do that as well. So it'll feed the SPARC website has how we're doing. There's a little set of images that are created. And one of those images is the operator log. And it shows, operators, who's made the most number of contacts. Again, it's just something we keep track of. We've never gone to the level of finding out that, hey, in this contest we had X number of busted calls and who did them. We've never come around knocking on somebody's door going, hey, you had 10 busted calls or messed up entries, let's fix that. We don't do that. So. But yeah, we do like to op on, the way we know who's making the contacts. Yes, sir?
Tom, I was wondering, are you set up to be able to kind of like discuss for the upcoming contest, like a QSO, the flow of the QSO?
Say it a little louder for me, Paul.
No problem. So are you set up here to show the group like the standard flow of a QSO for the upcoming reading contest?
The standard flow of the QSO?
Well, and how you manipulate N1MM to do that?
Well, in field day, I meant to do that. I was trying to keep it simple, and that's what I thought I did. But let me see if I have what you're asking. So, yeah, I mean, that's fair. So if I'm calling CQ, very similar to what Richard's doing here, since we have a couple minutes. If I'm on the air and I'm sitting down and I'm going to operate, I'm going to call CQ. So I'm going to call for people to call me. So I'm going to say CQ Winter Field Day, CQ Winter Field Day. This is Whiskey 4 Tango Alpha, W4TA Field Day.
Able 2 Mike Fox. Able 2 Mike Fox.
Able Alpha 2 Mike Foxtrot. We're 3 Oscar, West Central Florida.
1 Alpha.
Why am I typing?
West Central Florida.
1 Alpha. Okay, well, all right, we'll do that. That's right, I'm on Field Day. QSL, Whiskey 4 Tango Alpha Field Day.
That's it.
Dan's dead now. So that's the exchange. So it's great. I'm calling CQ. Somebody's going to give me their call. I'm going to come back to them with my exchange, which is in this month. It's going to be 3 Oscar, West Central Florida, and he's going to come back with his. And the other side, when somebody calls CQ.
CQ, able 2 Mike Fox, able 2 Mike Fox.
I already worked you. You're a dude, though, man.
I'll give you another one. November Yankee 2 Delta X-ray. November Yankee 2 Delta X-ray. Field day.
November Yankee 2 Delta X-ray. I'm sorry. I'm in run mode. Whiskey 4 Tango Alpha.
Whiskey 4 Tango Alpha. Please copy. 3 Alpha, NLI. November Lima, India.
QSL, you're 3 I'll say Alpha in this case. You're 3 Alpha, West Central Florida.
QSL, thank you. QRZ, NY2DX, November Yankee 2, Delta X-ray. Field
So,
day.
so one of the things, if you play that back in your head, one of the things you would have not heard is extra stuff.
The signals from anything.
Rich, he knows his call. So I said his call because I was in sort of run mode, you know, the CQ mode, where you do say his call. But he knows his call, so I just said W4TA. Because he knows his call. I didn't say his call, I just said W4TA. And he came back to me, because he said W4TA. And in that case, he's confirming, yes, I'm talking to you, and you're the one I heard. And he gives the exchange. And then I came back and said QSL, 3 Alpha, West Central Florida. I didn't say, what was your call up there?
NY2DX.
I didn't say November Yankee 2DX or NY2DX is a W4TA. Well, thank you very much. I didn't have to do that. And you do it very efficiently, and you get in the habit of doing it. Now, am I saying that we're going to come slap you on the wrist if you, or slap your wrist if you, or too verbose? No. But as you pick it up, you'll say, hey, I can be pretty judicious in my speech and what I'm doing and run these quicker than giving a lot of information that we don't need to confirm. And that's how you go faster. And one of the things I always say about contesting, a lot of times people don't necessarily like when the bands turn into contest operations on the weekends, but if you're interested in passing emergency traffic, if you're part of ARES or ACS, one of the goals you do in NETS is you want to be able to pass information as efficiently as possible with the least amount of repetition. Guess who also does that? Contest operators. So the two things are very complementary. We're not at odds with each other. The skills you learn contesting if you're into ARES will help you there, because if you're running the net, and the other way around. I contested a lot, and then during a set exercise, somebody asked me to be net control, which I had never done before, and it was pretty easy. I mean, a lot of stuff going on, but if you're used to that idea of keeping track of information, it's helpful. And it's a good skill to learn, and it works both ways. Any other questions? Anything I didn't cover that I should for intro or field day stuff?
One little box turned yellow, what's that?
One more time?
You got yellow on that third.
Oh, let's see. I'm gonna close the band right there. Most likely it was because he's a new thing. I'm not sure why I have it coming up in yellow, but he's most likely a new multiplier. But I'm not sure if that's right.
It says 1 point.
Yeah, because the other ones would have done it the first time. So yeah, I actually don't know why that's yellow. I was thinking it was the operator.
It might be super check too.
Yeah, it's not in the master file.
Not in super check.
What is it?
Super check partial.
It's possible. Well, the other ones should be in there too. But yeah, there is this other thing which you'll see pop up. There's sort of a set of known contesters. There's a file out there which they'll pop up and say, yeah, that's it. It's a way to help confirm that, yeah, you're most likely got the right call. That's more of the band's tough to copy. Although that's less useful in field day because you find a lot of people that don't operate. The only contest they ever operate is field day, or winter field day in this case. Any more questions?
Question. During winter field day, is there VHF?
I'm sorry?
During winter field day, is there VHF?
So winter field day, there is no, so summer field day has what's called a free VHF station. So it's a free 6-meter station. You can use it without adding to your transmitter totals. So in summer, we run 3 stations on HF, and then we run 1 person who's on 6 meters, and we get all the credit for those contacts, but we don't have to change our class to 4. Winter field day doesn't have that. However, the cool thing about winter field day, it's kind of an odd way to do it, but this is how the points work. The multipliers you can do it, and it's encouraged. As a matter of fact, one of my jobs is the satellite contact CW station contacts and making sure we get at least as many band mode contacts as we can. So I'm gonna try to get somebody on 2 meters, and I'm gonna try to get somebody on other bands, and we'll see if 6 is open. We'll try to get on there. And the idea is that we can, the more you make, the more band modes you make. So if I make an 80 meters, digital, CW, and phone, and I do that on 40, we're up to 6. If I do that on 20, we're up to 9. Every time I do that, it's a multiplier. So so you see some multiplier numbers, which is a score, and then their multiplier is 40. Because they basically did exactly what they basically just done it. So yes, we will do it. We will give it a try and see how many we can make. It's not free, so you have to take one of the other stations off the air while you're doing that. So that's why when we're on 2 meters trying to make a contact, we can't be on one of the HF stations. So we'll just coordinate and take that off the air just for a couple minutes to do that test. All right. Yeah.
Any questions for NTS passed?
One more time.
Any credit for NTS passed?
Oh, no, yeah, nothing, no, the only bonus is, you're talking about the NPS messages, which in summer field day is for bonus points. The only bonuses are a satellite contact, setting up completely, the way they say it is where you set up completely outside. Well, we qualify for that one. I forget the exact terminology because we qualify for it. So you don't have to be out in the woods or anything like that. But there's 3 basic bonus categories, and you 1,500 points. There's 4 total, so you can get 6,000 bonus points. But there's no the safety director and Facebook. They don't have any of that. So that's winter or summer field day. Yes. Can you use grab the mic?
How would you log it if it was mobile, portable, aeronautical, mobile? Does it matter on there?
One more time.
Using my class Charlie.
Okay. If it was mobile or portable,
Oh yeah.
it would be the same logging.
Yeah, you can if they basically log what you're saying. That's sort of the rule. So if somebody sends /mobile or whatever, and you can work DX too. So if I work. Well, he's not DX. If I work.
PK3DZM.
Yeah, there you go.
Because they're also doing Canadians.
So see, a section pops up as DX. That just pops up, and that'll do it. So I can just call them. In this case, I'll call them 1A. But remember, in winter field day, it's going to be O, I, and H, and we'll have that on the wall, so you know what the classes are.
You might want to mention that in winter field day, we also have 160 as a band.
Yeah, we do have the option to use 160, so we're going to try that as well. And again, we'll see how many. It's in worst case, it's 2 multipliers.
No, there's going to be a 160 contest going on.
Oh, that's right. I forgot about that. That's right.
So there might be a lot of activity there.
Yeah. That should be fun too. So anyway, we're not just. It's not just get the mults to get the multipliers. It's we want to do it. And hey, if somebody wants to make some contacts, it's not repeater contacts. Obviously, it's except for the satellite. It's simplex contacts. So we'll get on one of the simplex frequencies and call and see if anybody's there. And, we have a beam, not very high, but we have a talking station. We'll probably use the talking station's antenna and see if we can reach anybody on 2 meters and 440, for example, and certainly 6 meters, and we'll give that a try. We have plenty of antennas that'll tune on 6 meters, and we'll see what happens. Again, we'll sort of balance that with the activity of the other stations, because we have to take one of those off the air. So if we're not doing much on one, I'll say, hey, we're down a CW operator, because we're down a few people who are traveling this year. We'll say, hey, well, we don't have a lot of activity in the CW station. Let me go over to see if I can try some digital contacts for an hour or whatnot. So we'll balance that depending upon how. As long as we have people to operate, on sideband and CW, you'll be able to do that. I have no doubt I'll be able to fill in some other contacts somewhere along the way. Any other questions? All right, so again, January 25th, 26th, please go to the SPARC website and sign up so we know you're coming. And we look forward. Oh, and the last thing, we will do one more. I did it in the end of December. I'm going to do one more online N1MM session where we did a Zoom meeting, and I'm gonna do it one more time, and I'll send out information on that. We're doing our dry run next weekend, where we get all the equipment together and set it up, and then that way we make sure we have everything. So the committee and a few people are doing that, and then after, probably the weekend after, 15th or somewhere in there, I'll send out, do another one of these online. So if you do an online presentation, and that's more how to install it and how to set it up for Winter Field Day. Particularly if people want to test it on their own and practice at home before they get to field day, they can do that. All right, so that's what that is. All right, if there's no other questions, thank you.